It's perfect. So today I am here with Shalonda from Mercy Road Church, and Shalonda is the children's ministry pastor at Mercy Road. So excited to chat today, Shalonda.
Hello, excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, like, what called you into ministry, and how did you, find your current role at Mercy Road?
Okay, so I started by just serving inside of
Hmm.
ministry, and it was actually ours that actually prayed over me and my husband and said that we were going to be doing something that was going to help our pastor. We had no idea, no clue what that would be. And then because I am a registered nurse by trade,
Okay.
and so I was happy serving the Lord at the bedside with my patients. And then that
Hmm.
transcended into working for Revenue Cycle Services, which I enjoyed thoroughly. So
Hmm.
getting called into children, it was almost a shock, but a good shock because I enjoyed it. I've enjoyed kids all my life. And in teaching the gospel to children, it has been a passion since forever. Um, so it does, this seems very natural transition, but it definitely was a transition and then slowly started out part-time. And it wasn't until about a year and a half later where I went full time and just took that full leap of faith and trusting
Hmm.
God. And quite honestly, all the skills other than actual like physical thing that but the whole mental and spiritual components that we would use in nursing, we use that inside of kids men. So it's phenomenal connecting with our families, because that was one of my favorite parts at the bedside, was connecting with our families and our patients and teaching them. So I get to use that skill in ministry and teach about Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely. And nursing is a extremely helpful background for kids ministry. So, like, I'm curious, what are some of the top ways nursing has been useful and helpful in kids ministry for you?
Definitely, diffusing conflict has been great and helpful,
Hmm.
managing, knowing how to manage behaviors to be more of what we want to see, as far as kids
Hmm.
going, just knowing how to be able to have those compassionate and curious conversations with our parents and families, and
Yeah.
just being able to do research to find the best um, I guess you could say, evidence-based, way of
Hmm.
doing things inside of our
Hmm.
classrooms, and then teaching that to our volunteer team. That has been helpful and impactful, as well as making sure that everyone's washing their hands.
Yeah,
Wash your
absolutely.
hands, use the hand sanitizer, just being very thorough about our cleaning process, instilling gloves inside the nursery so that when we're changing diapers, just that type of thing, just being aware of germs are very much real and we need to take it seriously. So yeah, that has been helpful in that aspect as well.
Yeah, well, could not agree more there. And yeah, well, there's so many things there where those skills in nursing are extremely important in kids ministry because, like, hey, any issue that comes up in kids ministries probably going to be similar to something you might need solved in nursing. So,
Oh yeah, like first aid kits, all of that. That's my jam. It's just like you know what to do and you know how to work an AED if need be, which we have that available in our building.
mhm,
So we're a huge proponent of people taking their CPR classes so that we can
yeah,
have as many CPR certified
okay,
volunteers on hand as possible. So it's great. We have, and I love being able to know that high level ministry leaders also pull in high level ministry leaders. It's
yeah.
like, oh, they're serving. Oh, wait a minute, they're entrepreneur. They're serving. I can serve too. It's like, absolutely. So I think it's a great way to be able to spot um, great talent. If you
Oh
should
yeah.
say that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's always something we are focused on in Next Gen Ministry. Volunteers, recruiting volunteers. Like, what are some ways that you found work really well when it comes to both recruiting and retaining volunteers?
recruiting volunteers, number one, are your face-to-face conversations that you have, sharing your
Mhm.
vision with the team is super, super important, because if they can be able to buy into that, that will retain them longer than just, I have a need this weekend.
Mhm.
So as far as retention, those that are retained are those who they see the vision and they want to see it come into fruition. Like they want to see that whole reaching 1 million souls for Christ, and that that includes children. That
Mhm.
vision that we have there, and in empowering our parents, that has been a huge, huge, huge difference maker on being able to keep our volunteers there, which we call them team members and not volunteers,
Yeah.
because it just makes a huge difference, because they are part of the team. And we consider everyone that is serving inside the classrooms ministers of the gospel, because even in the nursery age, you're teaching our littles about Jesus in
Mhm.
a way that they can understand, even though it's more like sensory, tactile things. It's like it's a
Yeah.
way that they can understand and comprehend. So yes, I believe that's our number one way that we're able to retain our leaders. And then
Great.
serving on a consistent basis, because that's building relationships. So like those that serve every week, they honestly stay a whole lot longer than those who just like, I just want to serve once a month. Although we do
Mhm.
appreciate those that serve once a month, but they honestly do, because they build that relationship not only with those children's, but the families. And it's great seeing them get together outside of the classroom, just hooking up and going out to dinner or having a play date. All of that is super important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
Mhm.
it is very, very important, and like getting everyone behind that mission. Like, hey, 1 million souls for Christ, and kids ministry is a big, big part of that. So like, what are some other like values and visions you cast at Mercy Road, like to both encourage people and then just like other values you all operate by?
Yes. So we do operate by, like, we want to empower our families to decipher their own children, which is
Mhm.
amazing. And then just like that whole Micah 6:8, which is that walking boldly, living deeply.
Mhm.
It's like those are some concepts that we inspire, not only just in Mercy Kids, but in our church throughout. And we
Right.
have a huge support system with our lead pastor. He teaches a first step class, and he really is just like, hey, you guys need to get plugged into Kids Men, because children are making their decision to follow Jesus before the age of 11. So
Mhm.
it's so important that these are areas, if you're going to serve somewhere, he always says, serve there. And that makes me so happy. It does help make recruiting so much easier. But yes.
Awesome. Yeah, well, that is great to have like everyone, when everyone in the church is very supportive and focused on kids ministry, some wonderful things happen. So, like, what are just some, because unfortunately sometimes, kids ministry can get neglected in ministry. So, like, what are some like things that you all focus on that have a great culture of supporting kids ministries?
Well, one of the things that we have recently done was taking an inventory from our parents and
Mm-hmm.
our volunteers of like what is needed, what's needed in
Mm-hmm.
our classrooms, what you're serving there every week. What do you feel like is missing? Because you got to know, because oftentimes if you're not serving in classrooms, you put the puzzles there, but you may not necessarily know that there are now puzzle pieces missing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So like having that helpful feedback is really great. We're getting ready to go and do a big overhaul of painting our classrooms, which is super huge. We've been wanting to do that for a while, but having that feedback from parents is super important, because it kind of helps, light the fire underneath the engine. Like, this is something we really need to do. This is what they want,
Yeah.
so that helps tremendously. And then finding out, like, is there something that we're missing? Like, is there something that you need? Are there more parent forums that you want? Let us
Mhm.
know so that we can provide what you might need. We know that we get emails all the time. The biggest topic right now is their children dealing with anxiety, which did
Mm.
really, it kind of like increased after 2020, the whole like
Mhm.
not being in a social realm and being at home and isolated and all of that. But their kids are still trying to grow out of that. And now that they've been pushed back into the schools, some of them have social anxiety. So it's like trying to find out resources to help with that has been the journey that we're walking with them on.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
absolutely. Well, that is important to have not just engaging experiences in church, but also resources for really any season that a particular family or kid might be in. So, like, what are some tips you have for creating both engaging experiences and resources both in church and for families at home?
Repeat that because there was a
Okay.
little bit of a gap,
Oh,
I think,
good.
with the internet.
Yeah, so like, creating experiences that engage kids in church and then sending the resources they need home with them is important. Like, what are some tips you have for creating those engaging experiences? And then what are some good resources for engaging families at home and growing their faith outside of church?
I think our curriculum offers some really good resources,
Yeah.
so we share those inside of our newsletters. It's
Hmm.
extremely helpful. It's just at our fingertips. We use the Gospel Project, and
Awesome.
I love it because it's always Christ-centered, and they always have that
Hmm.
Christ connection. And then children are learning the same thing from nursery through elementary. We
Yeah.
have an amazing assistant, Mercy Kids assistant, who create some of those extra fun things that we from our previous curriculum that we used to have inside of our like pre-K classrooms and below. So that helps to compensate for that, but just having those on-hand resources. There's always
Hmm.
a discussion question starters that we provide for our families to kind of like, hey, this is a good way to kind of get the conversation started at
Hmm.
home. So those are valuable. I still like to use Parent Cue. Parent Cue has all
Yeah.
kinds of resources for parents that have articles on anxiety and how to cope with stress. And, so I'm always diligently looking for different resources other than just our curriculum to kind of help that. And then like just providing good book reads is another helpful tool that we try to have for our parents.
Hmm.
But I can't wait to watch other videos because we are going to be having a parent resource wall pretty soon. And that's
Okay.
so I can't wait to be able to stock that with some goodies. Mhm.
Perfect. So yeah, well, that is great, and yeah, some great resources shared there. Like, having a great curriculum, super important. Parent keys awesome. Then yeah, just giving parents the books they need for their
Yeah.
season in life.
And
So,
then every week that they come, we're handing them like the devotions, which is
hmm.
we hand them the devotions that they can be able to do at home, and it's all age appropriate. So it's like they don't have to have
Mm.
50 million sheets. It's all on one sheet of paper, front and
Yeah.
back of like the different age groups. That is extremely helpful for our parents. And it makes me happy when I like do an impromptu visit or even a planned visit. Sometimes those planned visits, I'm like, I don't, did you just put this here? Because I came here, but it'll be on the refrigerator and they're using it during their devotion times at home or using it
Hmm.
as part of their curriculum for their homeschool that they're doing when they are studying the Bible at home. And it's beautiful to see that they're using those resources.
Oh yeah, well, could not agree more. And it's always great to see that. So, yeah, and then what are some like goals that you have? So, both like short term and a long term at Mercy Round. Like, what are some of the goals for your ministry?
Well, the short term is that we want to get these classrooms painted.
Absolutely.
That's super, super huge. And then the long-term goals is that we have developed a family discipleship class, and
Hmm.
we just piloted that in the fall. And I think that is super amazing where we are bringing our families together and those who are like second grade to fifth grade. So it is very, narrow in the reach, but that have been baptized so that we can walk with them a little bit more closer on their journey of learning who Jesus is. And when we use Christ, oh goodness, um, Case for Christ for Kids as a
Hmm.
resource to kind of do that together as a family. And then so what our future ambitions on that is that it grows so much that we are empowering more families to do this more often, and that our groups enlarge. And it's almost kind of like a Rooted for Kids. If you ever did Rooted, that's like a 10 to 11 week discipleship course. Well, this is like Rooted for Kids, but it's just 6 weeks long.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I really like that. And just being very thoughtful, finding something great like that discipleship program for kids is important. And
Mhm.
like, have you started doing that already, or is that like
Yes.
something? Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
Yes. So we just piloted it here in the fall. So we can't wait to launch it again
Awesome.
in the spring, but before spring break, so we're excited about that. And then so after we do our second one, that's when we're going to re-invite those families that we know are still doing and using the skills that they've learned together in class. What I love about it is because parents can be real. Parents can be
Mhm.
real and be like, you know what, this week was hard. And we actually honestly just read this book or this chapter on the way to church, and it's just like, because it was a hard week, and they bring those hard things and they know that they're not alone. And that encourages them to continue to, you can do this. Everybody has a hard week. We just pick it back up. And the most important thing is that you're talking about God, and you're talking about God with your kids, and your kids are asking you questions because they're the number one disciplers. We only get them an hour for 1 week, right? So, and parents get them so much more. And so it's a great way for us to be able to partner and empower them and just encourage them like, yes, you can do it. And I love it, a whole fact about coming together as a family, as opposed to, which is not wrong at all. It's just different,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
just coming and sitting down as a class, and then you leave and go home, and you come to class without your kids and you go home and then they're just like all over the place, you know. It's we've heard from parents that it's very discouraging, but when they
Mhm.
bringing their kids to class and they're learning together, and there's other kids their age is learning together, they know that they're not the only ones doing it. It really does help to cultivate that whole family discipleship class, and people want to continue to do that. And it's encouraging to come back. And I'll get those phone calls, Shalonda, oh my gosh, this week it was challenging, this and that. And it's great because you can have those close conversations with parents and be
Mhm.
real. Like, guess what? Let me show you. It was when we sat down to do our family mission statement with my family. I actually recorded how my family was behaving while we were doing it and sent it to the group. Like, if this doesn't encourage you, you know,
Absolutely.
it's like you got one sitting on the head, another one it's just like, it's real, it's real life. And I think that's important to do real life, that whole Deuteronomy 6:4 of how we are to
Mhm.
be when they're lying down, when they're their day, how we are talking to them about God. And it does not say anywhere in scripture that it's going to be easy and that one's not going to be crying and the other one's not going to be half sleepy, but he
Mhm.
encourages us. It's a mandate that we do it as parents.
Oh yeah.
And my
Yeah.
my tool belt is full. So I have a 2-year-old all the way to a 22-year-old. So.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and that is very important. You're equipping parents with the tools they need for real life, like not some picture perfect, like make
Yes.
believe situation. So,
Yes.
uh, yeah, well, that is
Yes.
a lot of great stuff shared today, Shalonda. And I'm curious, like, just what other advice would you have for kids ministry leaders?
Oh, keep going. Don't quit. Don't throw in the towel. With lots of prayer, lots of fasting. When you find yourself discouraged, just call on the name of the Lord and ask others to come along with you, to
Mm,
help lift up your wings when you need that extra strength to go through, because you get on this with his grace and with his joy, and the joy that when you spend time with God, that joy that you get over,
mm,
but it comes from the Lord. So it's like, I encourage you to keep going. Don't quit. Don't throw in a towel, because it's so worth it. And when you see all those beautiful faces baptized because they were under the leadership of your team pouring into them. It brings so much joy. It's worth it. It is worth every bit.
Yeah, I could not agree more there. So yeah, everyone keep going, and we'll appreciate you so much for sharing so much, Shalonda. And
You're
yeah, I know
welcome.
this will help a lot of partners, and we'll all keep going.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so
Absolutely.
much, Chris.
Yeah, likewise.